Hi, this is JJ at CCBC. In this video we're going to look at customizing your Flash interface. Some major topics we'll cover are how to create custom layouts with the different panels and tabs in the Flash interface, as well as some of the default workspaces that come pre-installed with Flash. For this video I'm using Adobe Flash Creative Suite version 6. So let's get into this. Here I have Flash already open, and this is the default interface. Now I already did an interface video, so you should be familiar with the different panels of Flash. I'm going to show you how to adjust them and create a custom interface. So here's my stage panel, and here's my timeline panel. Now keep in mind these two panels are docked with one another. They're connected. If I place my cursor between them, you notice how I get a vertical up-down arrow cursor? If I click and drag, I can expand and shrink the two panels. So if one gets bigger, one has to get smaller to make space. This allows me to customize my different panels and their layout. If I can do that vertically, obviously I can do that horizontally as well. So I just click between any two panels and I can make one bigger and one smaller. Now this is really nice because it creates some really interesting layouts, and depending on what it is you're trying to do with Flash and your personal work style, your personal workflow, different layouts might work better for you than other layouts. So this is one way of adjusting the layout of Flash. One more thing you can do is actually move the panels around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my property inspector. You'll notice right now it's docked up here with the library. Down here I've got my timeline, which is docked with a motion editor. I'm going to take my properties and I'm going to dock it down here with my timeline. So if I release, you notice how the bar turns blue. If I release, it now docks that tab on that bar. So I have timeline, motion editor, and my property inspector all in one location. Now unfortunately my property inspector is really a much better tab for being viewed vertically than horizontally. This isn't really telling me much. So I'm actually going to move it back. So if I click and drag, I can dock it up here with my library, just like it was before. I can bring my timeline back up, so I'm kind of closer to that default interface. Another thing I can do is I can dock this property inspector above or below existing tabs, creating sort of new panels. So if I take my properties, I'm going to drag it off for a second. You can kind of see the ghost property panel there. I'm going to drag it back. Instead of putting it on the bar here, I'm going to put it above the tab. So you see how that blue line appears above the library tab? And when I let go, you'll notice I now have my property panel docked up here and my library panel docked below it. So if I click and drag, I can move those panels vertically, and now I have both the property inspector as well as my library panel visible at the same time. So this is another way you can customize your interface, is to move your panels around and create new panels above and below or side by side with existing panels. One more thing you can do with the panels is you can create what's called a floating panel. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move my stage over for a second. I'm going to take my properties panel, I'm going to drag it over here, and I'm going to release. And you'll notice it wasn't docking with any of the existing panels, so by default it creates a floating panel. And this panel just sort of sits here and floats over top of other panels. Now that can be a good thing, that can be a bad thing, depending again on your personal workflow, your personal preferences, but it's just one more option for customizing your interface when working with Flash. So those are ways you can create your own interface. One of the nice things with Flash is it comes with some default workspaces already built for you. So I'm going to show you the workspace menu that's right here, the Essentials. If I open this, these are all the different workspaces that come installed in Flash. And you can create new workspaces if you want to and save custom layouts that you've created. Now by default it starts with what's called the Essentials workspace. This is the one I use for all my videos because it's the default layout. It's what you're going to see in all of the computer labs here on campus. It's what you're going to see when you first install Flash at home. Now I've actually screwed up the layout of that Essentials, but what I can do is I can reset it. So if you ever come into the computer lab and some goofball was using the machine before you and did some nonsense like a layout like this that's really not very ergonomic, I can reset it and it'll look just like the default layout. Now it didn't center my stage, but I can easily do that using the scroll bars, and now I'm back to the default layout you would expect to see when you first start up Flash. Let's look at some of the other workspaces they've created. So there's one called Animator. Now this one's designed for artists basically, or people who want to create animations. It has a lot of panels added here that an artist would really want quick and easy access to. So if we look up in the corner, here's a color palette. Obviously artists are going to want to work with color a lot. You'll notice the timeline has been moved up to the top of the screen rather than the bottom, and the stage is down here. Your property inspector is over here. It's been split from the library, so your library is down here. This is just a different layout that an artist might prefer over the default layout. Let's take a look at another one. Let's try Developer. If you were a programmer creating applications for the Droid market or for an iPad, this might be a preferred layout for you. So you'll notice the stage is back in the middle. The toolbar is actually at the top of the screen rather than over on the right side. Here's our properties panel. The library is down here on the left. You notice there's no timeline anywhere on this screen. It's actually been removed because most programmers don't do custom hand-based animations. They program their animations using code. So rather than a timeline, they might have a compiler error panel to give us error within their code when they're debugging their projects, or an output panel that might spit out information while an application is running so they can see what's happening behind the scenes. So these are just some interesting different layouts, workspaces that come pre-installed with Flash. I'm going to go back to the essentials. This is the layout I'm going to use for all of my videos, again, just because it's what's in the computer labs by default, and it's usually what students are most familiar with. Don't be afraid to try customizing the screen, especially if it improves your workflow. It makes it much easier for you to produce your project quicker and more efficiently. Hope you learned something. See you in the next video.